Today, we look back at last weekend's results, see how teams fared out, as well as look into the future, see if I can predict what's going to unfold this weekend in the Marshall and the Owl. Welcome to Pitch Side with myself, Sean Ryan Radio, the podcast dedicated to grassroots rugby across Canada. And today, as per usual, we look at the Owl, we look at the Marshall, what happened last week, what's going to happen this week, and we get to discuss that on the show. Now, as always, if you're jumping into the action, you've just stumbled onto this podcast on YouTube and Spotify. Check out the previous episodes. You get a bit more intel on how this league works for the Marshall and the Owl. You get more insight into the other leagues across Canada, as well as how things have unfolded over the weeks. We've had so many different things happen each week. We had the Ontario Blues, which meant a lot of individual players and key players from teams missing. We had the weekend off for just between the first and the second, so that changed a step up, and other things like that. So it's important to keep track of how the story is unfolding for the Marshall, and we're doing a great job of it here on the podcast. Now, we'll start with the Owl as per usual, looking at the Premiership. Three fantastic matchups happen at the weekend. The first one to look at is the Scarborough Aces versus the Aurora Barbarians. I'm starting with this one because I'm wearing the Scarborough Aces for today's show. Which is, if you're looking on YouTube, is fantastic. You can like the video and say it's fantastic. And if you're on Spotify, you just got to take my word. Got to take my word if you were listening on Spotify. Now, Scarborough Aces were 12, Aurora Barbarians were 64, so a big win for the Barbarians on this one away from home. I did go for the Aurora to get the job done, so big W for them. The Oshawa Vikings were against the Guelph Goats at the weekend. The Oshawa Vikings were 24, the Guelph Goats were 44, so big win for the Guelph Goats. They are a powerhouse, they are a strong team, and I went with them to get the job done too. Last but not least, Bradford Harlequins versus the Toronto Nomads. Bradford Harlequins 79, Toronto Nomads 0. So I think the scoreline speaks for itself. I don't think I need any more additional information on how that went. So, 3 out of 3. I think this is the first weekend I got 3 out of 3 in the Premiership, so pretty happy with that. Now, in the standings of things, Guelph are in at the top with 20 points. Aurora Barbarians following behind with 16. Brantford Harlequins in at third with 15. The Oshawa Vikings with 7 points. Scarborough Aces in at fifth with 5 points. And the Toronto Nomads in at sixth with 1 point. Now, what are we looking at for the upcoming weekend? We got 3 fantastic matches, as I said. The first one is the Aurora Barbarians versus the Toronto Nomads. Last time out, the Aurora Barbarians won 45-0. So I think that's self-explanatory on who I think is going to win this fixture. Do I think it's going to be a similar scoreline? Possibly is my answer there. But I think Aurora should win comfortably unless something absolutely drastic happens between me releasing this episode on a Friday and the Saturday fixture. Guelph Goats will be playing the Brantford Harlequins. I think this is the biggest game of the Premiership and might be the biggest game of the weekend as a whole between the Marshall and the Owl. Last time out was the Owl final that these two teams played. It was 34-30 in that final. So very close matching teams. They're very competitive, very good sides. It definitely will shake things up if the Harlequins get a W here against Guelph, but Guelph are so strong. Last year was the first time they lost, and it was against Bradford Harlequins during the regular season. But they hadn't lost a game since 2018 before then. So they've been fantastic, is the best way I can say it. And then last but not least, the Scarborough Aces versus the Oshawa Vikings. As we looked at the table there, we are looking at 4th and 5th. One is going to be ahead of the other after this fixture, unless it ends in a draw, of course. But last time out, the Vikings won that fixture 32-26. So they do have that bit more of an edge. I think they're probably favourites to win, even if they are away from home. Now, if you are enjoying the podcast, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit a 5-star review on Spotify. It helps massively grow exposure to new fans of rugby here in Canada. It could be individuals who are searching on Spotify, searching on YouTube, looking for rugby podcasts, want to know more about Canada. Maybe they want to come abroad, play for the summer, whatnot. This helps gain exposure that way, as well as just being able to chat about it. It gets into the algorithm, it's promoted a bit more. And just as a side note of some of the goalposts, the flagpoles, the markers, that the achievements that I had in place. So we reached our 50 followers on Spotify, and I believe we're on 60 on YouTube as of Thursday, the 4th. So I'm hoping to get to 100 subscribers by the end of the summer. Of the two of them, or two of them individually. That is the goal. But we're definitely on track to do so. Um, so make sure you like, make sure you follow, and make sure you comment down below if you like the jersey or not, to help the algorithm know that we mean business. Now, in the championship, how it all unfolded at the weekend. We'll start with London St. George versus the Belleville Bulldogs. This fixture, as I said, both teams hadn't won a game. It was a very important game for both teams. And I went with London St. George due to the fact that they were at home. And I picked the right choice. London St. George 42, Belleville Bulldogs 15. So an important win for London St. George there. Toronto Scottish versus the Kingston Panthers. This was a fixture I said was going to be tight, and I was completely wrong in terms of it being tight, but I did pick the right team. I said the Kingston Panthers had that bit of more of an edge. It seemed it was a bit more than I expected. The Toronto Scottish 7, the Kingston Panthers 94. So another one of those games that we had 100 points scored, which is very interesting. I think this is the second one of the season so far. Now, we move on to Waterloo versus Peterborough. I think both these teams are fantastic. I felt that Peterborough is my number two side in this league as a prediction before the season kicking off. They were fantastic last year. Believe they should be fantastic this year, and the result doesn't surprise me. So the Waterloo County 12, the Peterborough Pagans 44. So big win for Peterborough, and it keeps them on track for challenging that top position, but also on track of what they did last year of coming second in the overall standings. Now, last but not least, the Burlington Centaurs versus the Ottawa Irish. Both teams were on winning streaks heading into this fixture. One of them had to lose the streak, and unfortunately, that had to be the Burlington Centaurs. The scoreline was 10 to the Burlington Centaurs, the Ottawa Irish 45. The Ottawa Irish haven't lost a game since being in the L, so that's another interesting fact to take with you. Now, as the standings hold, the Ottawa Irish sit at the top, as I mentioned, undefeated, 20 points at the top. Peterborough Pagans then in at second with 15 points. The Burlington Centaurs in at third with 14 points. Kingston Panthers in at fourth with 10 points and a plus 81 points differential. Waterloo County then in at fifth with 10 points with a negative 5 point differential. I believe London St. George are in sixth with 4 points and a negative 59 point differential. And then the Toronto Scottish in at seventh with 4 points and a negative 110 differential. And then the Belleville Bulldogs sit at the bottom with 0 points. I do say I believe for the London St. George Toronto Scottish because they are switched on the website. So the Toronto Scottish sit at 6 on the website. The London St. George sit at 7th. But both teams only have one win. Both teams have the same amount of points. So I believe the next protocol is to go to the points difference, and London St. George are ahead on that regards. Now, time to predict the future, the most important thing. So what's happening this weekend is the Kingston Panthers are playing the Burlington Centaurs this weekend. Now, last time this fixture happened, 47 to the Kingston Panthers and 27 to the Burlington Centaurs, and that was in Burlington. So, should we see a similar result? I'm thinking we possibly could, due to the fact that this Burlington Centaurs team has been a breath of fresh air, very different team from what it was last year. They've already, achieved the goal of being just as good as last year. So they just need one more win out of the next couple of weeks to say that they've progressed, they've made improvements, they've done better. So this is definitely one that's going to prove it, especially being on the road, especially heading to Kingston. It's going to be a big fixture in that regard. Now, moving on swiftly. No, hold on. I didn't make my prediction. I'm going to go with the Burlington Centers to win that one. Strangely enough, I think they might have the edge. I think they might have the edge. I think they might get their fourth W. Um, think it's gonna be tight. I think it's gonna be within one score. It could be way off. It could be another Kingston Panthers blowout, as we saw this weekend. But I'm gonna go with Burlington Centers to win by 7 points, between 7 and 2, somewhere in that bracket. But that's who I'm going for. Moving on, Belleville Bulldogs versus Waterloo County. Now, last time out, Waterloo had won the fixture 29-7. So interesting on that regard. Obviously, this year we did the reversal, so that was in Waterloo last year. It's going to be Belleville. So it does bring the advantage to Belleville. But this Waterloo side is strong. So I still think Waterloo will probably get the job done on the day. I think it might be a tighter result, but it all depends on how well they travel. So I'm going to go with Waterloo to get the job done. Ottawa Irish versus the Toronto Scottish. I think this is an easy one, especially from the last time these two teams played. Uh, the Ottawa Irish won 71-0. So another one of those one side didn't score any points type of games. Yeah, you gotta go with the Ottawa Irish. I think it's a no-brainer. They are very, very strong side. But I'm hoping the Toronto Scottish score and make it not as much of a blowout as 71-0. That's what I hope. But yeah, the Ottawa Irish to win comfortably. And then the Peterborough Pagans versus London St. George. Last time out, the Pagans won 36-0. So another one of those nil ones. So I think Pagans are, as I said, second favorite team. I think I say it on the podcast every week. So I expect them to win at home against London St. George. Now, if you're looking for more rugby in Ontario, across Canada, you got to check out my Instagram account, Sean_Ryan_radio. You can get more information about the leagues, photos of players. I'm always collaborating with people to promote the sport, promote rugby in Canada and Ontario. So, if you're somebody who's enjoying the content or is from a different province and you're taking photos of a game and you're like, oh, I'm not getting much exposure. I need more exposure. How am I going to do it? Just tag me. Just share it. Even if you want to add me as contributor or anything like that, or collaborator. Sorry, my apologies. I'm more than happy to have it on my page. More happy to support photographers in rugby or videographers or players or individuals or whatever it might be. You can do that. You can do that. And right now, I'm working with Aaron Gazzola this season. We're doing a battle of predictions of the Marshall Premiership each week on Instagram. That goes up at 6 o'clock Ontario time, is when we normally schedule it for, to see who has the better results for getting things right in the Marshall. Now, we look at the fixtures of what happened over the weekend in the Marshall, and we start with the Premiership. Bammy Beach versus Burlington Centers. I said this was going to be a 1 point difference. It became a 2 point difference. So I wasn't shocked, but I was like, oh man, if it was a 1 point difference, it would have been crazy. The interesting thing about this fixture was that it was a kick at the final minutes of the game. Bammy Beach 28, Burlington Centers 30. So that was a big win for Burlington Centers. They continue their win streak. And as we see later on, they still are at top of the table. Waterloo County versus the Crusaders. Crusaders got the job done 36-26. Both me and Aaron had kind of a closer between one score kind of result expected. But that wasn't the case. The Crusaders came up and showed up. London St. George versus Aurora Barbarians. Again, we were expecting London St. George to have a double digits in terms of their scoring. Didn't happen, and expected it to be within one score for me personally. But that didn't happen. London St. George 3, the Aurora Barbarians 38. So, yeah, big result for Aurora Barbarians. Definitely showing off their class, showing their strength in their squad. London St. George, it's been a tough start to the season. I think they're still trying to get in the groove with all these Premiership sides. But I hope this weekend they have a bit more luck on their side. And then last but not least, the one that shocked the entirety of Ontario with the Toronto Scottish versus Bradford Harlequins. Um, Me and Aaron both went for the Harlequins to win. I went for a bit more of a closer matchup due to the fact that the Toronto Scottish have been progressively getting better throughout the season. But they've really done made some magic here, is what I would say. Toronto Scottish 47, the Bradford Harlequins 34. So big win for the Scottish in that one. Really, really good performance there, and it's gonna favor them later on in the season. So now time to look at standings, see who's in what position. And it's very interesting. So starting off with number one, as I said, Burlington Centaurs undefeated so far, 3 games, 14 points, sitting at the top of the table. Now, where it gets interesting is between second and fifth. Um, so the point differential hasn't factored in terms of the standings. So I'm gonna use my brain right now and translate it into what the standings should look like. Um, so it should be the Bradford Harlequins in at second with 10 points with a plus 30 point differential. Then in at third, it should be the Aurora Barbarians with a 10 points with a plus 26 point differential. Then in a third, or sorry, in a fourth, the Crusaders with 13 points differential with 10 points on the table, and then the Toronto Scottish in at fifth with 10 points with a negative 1 point differential. And then we have Bama Beach in at sixth with 9 points, the Waterloo County in at seventh with 2 points, and then London St. George sitting at the bottom, unfortunately, with 0 points to show for it. So yeah, very interesting to see how it's all shaped up. Um, from the Rugby Ontario's website, they have the Toronto Scottish second, Crusaders third, Bradford Harlequins fourth, and the Aurora Barbarians in a fifth. Not sure why it doesn't take into consider point differential as the second factor. I know the first thing is points, the second thing is wins, third thing is normally points differential. Um, but it seems not to be the case. So I'm unsure of what the actual ins and outs of it is. But I won't worry about that right now. We're going to look at the predictions for the upcoming games this season, this weekend. I mean, Waterloo County versus Bama Beach. Now, last time out, Waterloo County won 62 to 12 in this fixture here at the Waterloo home ground. So it's gonna be interesting because Waterloo they haven't won a game yet. They've picked up some bonus points, don't get me wrong, but they haven't won a game yet. And this is definitely one of those games that you expect them to come up, expect them to show up, and it's the weekend to do it. It's the weekend to do it. Uh, Bammy Beach, they sit at six. They're 9 points. There's only 1 point between them and the second place team. So getting some points on the board will be important for them, especially if they want to be top contenders, get into a better position for the playoffs. Um, so yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how that actually plays out. But I'm gonna go. Ah, man. I'm really, really stuck here because, as I said, Bammy Beach do have 2 wins under their belts, if I'm not mistaken. No, my apologies. They have 1 win under their belt, but they've gained a lot of bonus points to make it look like they have two. Um, so I'm gonna go with County. I'm gonna go with County. I'm gonna go. This is the turnaround. This is the turning point um, for them, and they'll get into the right swing of things. I'm gonna go with them to win. I would say 3 points. I think it's going to be a tight game. I don't think it's going to be anything crazy like last time out. Now, London St. George versus Burlington Centaurs. Last time out, Burlington won this fixture back in 2024, 34 to 8. So very, very interesting fixture. in the sense that London St. George haven't won a game yet. They're at home. They're playing the top team in the league right now, and you got to say, do they have a plan in place to battle with this Burlington team because they have been undefeated? Um, I'm gonna go with the Burlington Centers. I think that's the obvious choice. I think they should win comfortably, unless London St. George have some magic, have the secret ingredient to win that fixture, then London St. George. But yeah, I go with Burlington to get the job done and get it comfortably. I'm going to say 10 points. Um, the Aurora Barbarians versus Bradford Harlequins. Last time out, Aurora won in the fixture, 49 to 36 at the Shepherds Bush. Um, what can I say? This one's going to be interesting. Bradford Harlequins, after the loss last week against Toronto Scottish, they were away from home. Will this away fixture affect them as well? It's interesting to say. It's a very interesting one. I think I'm gonna go with Aurora. I just have a feeling, like my heart, body, and soul say Bradford Harlequins, but after last weekend and the big win that Aurora Barbarians had over the London St. George, maybe we might see Aurora win again at the Shepherd's Bush. So I'm gonna go with Aurora to win by 2 points. I think it's gonna be tight. I think it's a big ask. Could be completely wrong, but I'm going. That's what I'm going with. And then the last fixture, Toronto Scottish versus the Crusaders. Last time out, the Crusaders won 31 to 12. But the big difference is Toronto Scottish are a very different team from last season. So I think that is a factor also to play in the predictions for this. Um, I think I think no, I'm gonna go with the Scottish because it's gonna back to bite me. I'm gonna go with the Scottish, win very narrowly. I'm gonna go with 2 points, 3 points, let's say. But Jamie, any of these two teams can win it. Now, as you are aware, or if you're not aware, we do predictions for the public to get involved. To do it on my Instagram story each week. We have between 400 and 600 people getting involved in these polls each week, and only growing. And it's a great indicator for both me and for both you to see what the public thinks about these upcoming games. So the first one I'm looking at is 82% win for the Burlington Centers to win over the London St. George. So very, very convincing that the public are saying the Burlington Centers to win against London St. George. Now, the other three remaining games are a bit closer to call. 68% say Bradford Harlequins to win against Aurora Barbarians. I'm going against the grain. I'm going against the grain. As much as I'm in the minority here, I still think there's a bit of a fighting edge for Aurora, especially with the Bradford Harlequins on the road again. 53% think Waterloo will win over Bammy Beach, so they're thinking it's going to be a closer fixture. You do have to look at Waterloo coming away with 2 bonus points, no wins under the belt. Those little things are affecting that ratio right now. But I've gone with Waterloo. I hope the 53% is correct on that one. And then the Oakville Crusaders, 55% to win over the Toronto Scottish. So very, very narrow, 5% of a difference between the two sides. So really could go either way for it, to be honest. But I've gone with the Toronto Scottish. I've gone against the grain. I hope I'm right. I hope I'm right. Now, for the championship, let's have a look at the weekend because it was an interesting one. And we'll start off with a game that I didn't get right, but I didn't get it too far wrong at the same time. Peterborough Pagans versus Guelph Goats. Peterborough 38, Guelph 40. So 2 point game, very tight, very high scoring game. But it definitely puts Guelph in the driving seat in terms of one of those teams that's very competitive this year in the Marshall, especially just getting into the league. So they've been making an impression. The Toronto Nomads versus the Markham Irish. I went with the Markham Irish to get the job done. They certainly did away from home 30 to 14. So big win for them. The Oshawa Vikings versus the Niagara Wasps. I went with the Oshawa Vikings. They certainly got the job done. 33 to the Vikings, and then 19 for the Niagara Wasps. So big win there. Last but not least, the Bytown Blues versus the Ajax Wanderers. As I mentioned last week on the show, I was at this fixture last year, and Ajax came out guns blazing and won that fixture, and they certainly did that again, 38 to 24, for the Ajax Wanderers winning on the road. So big win for them, big win for them. Now, as the standings stand, there's two teams who are undefeated. One of them being the Ajax Wanderers, sitting at 15 points with a points differential of 110. And then the Guelph Goats sitting in at second with 15 points with a points differential of 57. So very impressive figures so far for those teams. Peterborough Pagans then in at third with 12 points. The Oshawa Vikings then in at fourth with 10 points. The Bytown Blues are in fifth with 6 points with a plus 22 points differential. Markham Irish then in at a sixth with a negative 27 points differential with 6 points. And the Niagara Wasps with 0 at seventh with negative 81. And the Nomads in at 8 with a negative 113 with 0 points on the table to show. So, interesting standings. Interesting that we have two teams still playing out who haven't lost a game yet. But now it's time to make predictions on how the weekend's going to unfold for these two teams, because I feel like it's going to be an interesting weekend. Now, starting off, Guelph Goats versus the Bytown Blues. This is the first encounter since the recording of 2017. They might have encountered before, might have done friendlies, but from the records of the regular season, that's the information I have. So this is going to be interesting to see how it plays out. The biggest thing is going to be distance again. It's always been a thing for Bytown Blues because they have a lot of traveling for them. And this one is no different. Heading to Guelph, a long journey. You're looking at 6 and a bit hours. So it'll be interesting to see how this one unfolds. But Guelph will probably have the home advantage. They'll have that power. They'll have the university experience. So those factors are going to come into play as well for them. So I think Guelph are going to probably win this fixture. I'd say comfortably enough. I'd say one score at least. But yeah. Now moving on to the Ajax Wanderers versus the Oshawa Vikings. This is an important one because one, it's club day at Ajax. I wish I was down there. The boys asked me down. Unfortunately, just been flat out with work, busy, doing two doubles over the weekend, so I mightn't be as active on Instagram as I should be. But it's club day at Ajax. Wish they have a fantastic day. They're playing their rivals, the Oshawa Vikings. This is one of the biggest rivalries. We talked about it on the biggest rivalries episode, and yeah, last time out, the Oshawa Vikings won 31 to 24. So this is going to be interesting. Ajax Wanderers on a winning streak. The Vikings have been very impressive so far. 2 wins out of the 3 games being played. So I think I'm going to go with Ajax. They haven't proved me wrong yet. And I'm going to say it's going to be a tight one. Club day. And I wish the boys the best of luck and hopefully come right on my predictions. Markham Irish versus Peterborough Pagans. Last time out, the Peterborough Pagans won 45 to 14. It's another one of these interesting ones to see how it's all going to play out. Peterborough did have the fall last week against Guelph, but I will say that they are still one of my favorite teams to kind of get that promotion spot. Markham Irish have had a few hurdles along the way, but I think they're kind of getting themselves back into gear after that win against the Nomads at the weekend. But still, I think the Peterborough Pagans should win comfortably in this fixture. And last but not least, the battle of the bottom two is what I like to call it. The Niagara Wasps versus the Toronto Nomads. Both teams fighting for points. And last time out, the Niagara Wasps won very, very comfortably, 45 to 5. So I'd expect the Niagara Wasps to win this fixture. They haven't been up to scratch so far this season, but I am hoping that they have the bit of magic to take on the Nomads. I think they are the stronger team based on how the weekends have gone for the first 3 weeks. So it'll be interesting, but I also think Niagara will take the cake. Now, as I said, you guys get to predict. You predict on the Monday. Do it on my polls on the Instagram. So 73% of you guys think that the Peterborough Pagans will win against the Markham Irish. I think you are, guys. You're correct. You got it right. Uh, I'm on your side for that one. 67 for Guelph Goats to win over Bytown. I'm with you on that one. I agree with you. I think I think Bytown might struggle a bit more on the road. Um, but they did fantastic last year at the same time. But I think this Guelph side is just super impressive so far. 52% of people think the Toronto Nomads will win against Niagara Wasps, which is something I'm going against. But honestly, 52% is literally as close as you get. It might as well be 50-50 with the numbers. It's like one or two people of a difference kind of thing, depending on the size of the polling itself. So it's a tight one. It's a tight one. But I'm going with Niagara. I'm sticking with Niagara. And then the Ajax Wanderers versus the Oshawa Vikings. 54% for the Ajax Wanderers to win over the Vikings. So, but it's definitely not a clear cut for those last two fixtures. But still, you're going with the right team. I think the Ajax Wanderers will get the job done. Now, it's very interesting by the public for these results. I think overall, but I'm excited to see how it all unfold next at the weekend, and I'll be keeping you up to date on Instagram. As I said, I'm doing two doubles, so I will be busy. But I will update you once I'm finished work, once I'm on my breaks, on the scores across Canada, whether it's in Ontario, whether it's on the East Coast, West Coast. You send me the results on my story. I put up a post to say the results across Canada. You put the results in. Just make sure you let me know who they were playing against and if it was the men's or the women's. It just makes it easier for me to figure out exactly what it is instead of me looking online and trying to figure out which game it was which or who were they playing or whatever. So um, do put those informations when you're doing your let me know of the scores. Um, and especially if your team is an Irish or a Scottish, just let me know where the team is because I've had one or two times where I've had, uh, the Irish one against the Scottish, and I don't know whether it's Markham Irish versus the Toronto Scottish or the Ottawa Irish versus the Barrhaven Scottish. So there's a small bit of confusion there, but just make sure it's obvious enough which team you're referring to any of those doubles. Um, but if you enjoy the episode this week, make sure you follow, make sure you subscribe. As I said, we're trying to get to that 100 mark on both YouTube and Spotify by the end of the season. That's kind of my aim. I really don't have too much of a plan of how it's gonna go, but we're pretty good so far. I know we're 3 weeks in. The podcast has been going for a good bit now. But yeah, we've got 60 on the YouTube, 50 on the Spotify, so we're at the halfway point. But I want to get to the 100 subscriber, 100 follower count on both. So that is my aim. So if you can help me along that journey, or you want to get more information about the leagues, about keeping up to date with all these stats, make sure you do that. Get notifications, get more understanding. If you enjoy, you can also follow me on Instagram and you can learn more about the scene in Ontario. I do, as I said, we do the polls. We do this more of my predictions as well as predictions with Aaron, photos of players and games and video clips and everything in between. We have it all there. So you get to get a good insight on the scene as a whole and see how exciting rugby here is in Ontario and across Canada. Now, if you do want to help me cover Canadian rugby even more, you can show support on the Ko-Fi. Every little bit helps. If you have £5, fantastic. It helps with other things. One of the things I'm hoping to do is get a bigger desk. This desk is quite tight. There's a few things I want to change. I want to get a new laptop, so I'm personally saving as well. But there's a few things I'd love to change. The ring light as well is something that is holding on by a thread, is what I will say. As well as get a second camera. I do have a second camera set up. Uh, but to have different angles, give it more professional feel. But yeah, I do have sights on, you know, making it bigger and better. And if we get a new laptop, that's the biggest issue. just because it seems to, or build a custom PC. That might be the option. It'll help with doing the interviews, and that's one of the things why like people might have been wondering why didn't he do interviews? Because I did have a few people involved. The problem was is that the like, and you saw it on one or two of the episodes if you've seen it. There's like a purple mark or a green mark when the laptop is overheating and it's not being able to process the information when recording, and then it leads to, quality not being up to par. So, I was thinking if we did interviews on top of that, it's taking more energy. It's not getting good quality content for the YouTube and the Spotify. So that's my take on it, my insight on it. Um, but yeah, but until then, until next time, until next week where we talk about it all again. My name is Sean Ryan, Sean Ryan Radio, the radio guy, the radio man, the guy on Instagram, the predictions guy, the guy who knows all, the commentator guy, the Marshall guy, the Ontario rugby guy, the Canadian grassroots rugby guy, um, and many, many more names. This has been Pitch Night. We'll see you in the next one.